Well, hello there. Interesting to be in here. My name's Chad Nash, and I'm with Nash Tech. At Nash Tech, we created a trading bot to enter and exit the market with the best settings, so that the bot can trade on your behalf and you can get your time back. Stop letting the big Wall Street guys win while you're stuck trading manually with emotion. Do you ever find yourself trading and then suddenly realize that you're changing your stop losses and your targets, or you start to get emotional and maybe enter at the wrong times when you know you shouldn't? Well, we understand that because we've been there. And with 15 years of software experience and several years of day trading experience, we created the perfect bot for this situation. Epic Bid was created to continuously set up low offer bids throughout the trading session. Okay, so on the last video, which we provide a link to on the bottom of the video here for the summary description, the first video in this series was all related to how to set up the most basic settings for Epic Bid indicator on a chart, and also how to set up a strategy. We discussed how to add an initial strategy on the chart itself, also how to disable it, edit the settings under the tabs area of strategies on NinjaTrader, and then from there how to change those settings for the strategy, re-enable them. But we haven't really got into any backtesting or optimizing the strategy, so that's what we're going to be covering in this video. Just a quick reminder as we get into this that we're not directly affiliated with NinjaTrader, and we are, we build on top of that platform. We are a third-party certified vendor. But just a quick disclaimer that we're not directly related to them. So as we go through things, just remember that, along with there's lots of other videos out there for a lot of these topics around strategy optimization, strategy analyzer, backtesting, market replay. I encourage you to check out the NinjaTrader YouTube channel for some of those details. Okay, so what we're going to discuss today is strategy analyzer. So the way to get to Strategy Analyzer within your menu is you click New and you click Strategy Analyzer. Okay, so as you have that loaded, we're going to go ahead and, oops, I got a couple different ones loaded. We are working on Epic Bid today, so we're going to change it to, the first thing you'll notice here is you have a couple different ones: backtest, optimization, walk forward, multi-objective, things like that. We're just now, for the first part of this video at least, going to focus on the backtest. You're going to choose Epic Bid from your list. And if you notice, you're going to see the same settings as we had for the strategy when we added it on the chart. And you're going to also notice a few different ones. You're not going to have to enable it or anything like this because we're really setting the same variables, but we're looking at how that backtests historically. So what we have here is the default. As you have strategies that are working well, you can save the templates. Again, you can also download these templates at www.nashtech.xyz/templates. For trial users, we provide 30, 60 days of templates that we've saved. We optimize on our servers. If you're if you're a subscriber or a lifetime license holder of any Epic collection or Epic product, you get those. Sometimes we do them weekly, even daily. Okay, so you can load templates. It's always easier to start with this if you're looking at not doing too much optimization. This kind of helps with the template to have all of the variables in place. So here we're looking at, let's see, futures, YM, M2K futures, NQ. Let's load this one. So this is just going to load in the same details. If you want to save this as a default, you can hit save and just click save as default here. Okay, so when we run this, we're going to see, based on these settings, the profit targets, the stop losses, the EMA, you know, everything from the trading hours, what you can backtest on. But we're going to backtest this against the NQ and on a 5-minute chart. We're not going to enable tick replay. We'll get into that another time. So we're just going to sort of see what would have historically worked out. So this looks like pretty good settings. It would have had 49 trades, 63% profitable. I think anytime you're looking at a profit factor anywhere in above a 2 or a 3 is worth, to me, testing further on simulation, market replay, things like that. Really anything over even 1.5 is worth, to me, testing on a simulator account to see how it goes. Especially in this case, because you've got a good month of data, and you also, you know, your start date is on the 3rd. You have an end date towards the end of the month. Let's just see. Today is the 12th. Let's just change this to be, see how well it would have played out with the same setup from Friday the 11th. We'll run that, see if it would have done as good. It would have done, yeah, actually would have done really good. Not quite the same profit factor, but again, you're up there towards 4, and you're looking at 65 trades. So it's a pretty good setup. So let's take a look at this setup for a minute. We're going to run variable by variable on here, or configuration option by configuration option, however you want to say it. And we're just going to explain what this, which each one does. If you're looking just for the summary of these, you can easily go back to the last video, because in this video I really want to detail each and every setting. Okay, so let's look at the plots. So you have plot EMA, plot recent high-low, plot bid price, plot profit target. It was quite important to visually see that previously whenever we were using the chart and enabling the strategy. But for Strategy Analyzer, it can take up a lot more performance, especially when we get to optimization. So what does plotting these, plots mean? Well, as you can see here, if you choose display, instead of choosing the summary, you can choose the chart, and you actually are going to see the plotted lines. So here's the EMA down below, and that's why we're going long, is because we have this position set up both with EMA bias. So it's only going to go long if it's above this EMA of 850. Okay, so from here we have, let's just see what time we're at here. Okay, so from here you're looking at, here's the bid price, the blue line. The low is of the last, looks like we have it set to 60 bars. So you're getting a visual because we plotted those. But does it really help you down the road in terms of if you're running optimizations and it's running 50,000 iterations? Do we really want to plot these? No. The more you plot, the more time-consuming. All of that stuff really matters. But if you're just doing it and now you're trying to get a better visual, is that the right settings? Why did it exit there? Could I have set the profit target to be higher? Should I have set the trailing stop to be more or less? You can sort of get a visual on the chart by plotting those. But we'll go back to summary. Actually, just to give you a visual, if we don't plot these, you will simply see the chart as it is. But you're not losing any functionality. Actually, it must have plotted the bid prices, but it didn't plot any of the recent high-lows. We just have the bid still plotting. I have to look at that. But, okay, so now we look at entry type limit. So again, the entry type limit, it's great if you already want to be in line. So that bid price is constantly changing. As each bar changes, as the price changes, if the low changes to where the bid price would be affected, your order is in as a limit order. That can take away from your buying power, but it also puts you in line to get it at that price. A market order, first of all, has no guarantee on the price, but it's not taking away from your buying power. My suggestion would always be to leave this to limit. unless you are doing, let's say, many instruments. We have one client that was using this against 200 stocks with TD Ameritrade's connection on a multi-broker. So in that case, you know, you're really looking at taking your buying power away very quickly if you're set to limit. Calculation mode, we're just going to leave this at ticks. This is helpful if you are testing with futures or anything that, you know, you're quite used to knowing how many ticks that is. So if you're trading the MES or you're trading the NQ and you know approximately how many ticks you're looking to get out of that. I'd like to avoid currency and price just because it makes it more difficult down the road in terms of setting this up. And this is true for all of our settings. Anytime you're using a set static dollar amount or a price or a currency, you're really limiting the setups whenever you start optimizing for, like, let's say all of the micros or all of the futures, because, you know, things trade at different prices, right? So I would stick to picks. I'm sorry, I would stick to ticks. I don't trade Forex myself, but you could do pips, of course. I would stick to ticks or percent. Okay, Epic bid set offline calculation. I went over this in the summary, but what this is doing here is it's saying the difference between the high and low. Okay, so the high and low we're looking back is 60 bars. And the difference would be the high, you know, let's say the high is 100, the low is 80. The range would be from 80 to 100. If I said that right. Yeah, the high is 100, the low is 80. You have a range of 20. And this is going to bid above that range this many ticks. Okay? And that, I was saying in currency 80 and 100, but you get the idea. Outside of the range, this is going 15 below the low, so if we change this from in range to outer range, just to show you how significant of a difference this can be for one setting, it's a pretty big difference. I'm going to run this now, and we're still positive, we're still in the green, but the profit factor's down, things aren't as good. One way of optimizing is if you only have a few settings like this, and you're pretty close to knowing, okay, what if we went 5 ticks out of the range? What's our profit target going to be? Still relatively about the same, but you get the idea. Outside of the range is bidding below the low for a long entry, and inside the range is bidding above the low, okay, for a long entry. Everything works different when it's the short. Works just the opposite. You're bidding below the high if it's in range, or you're bidding above the high if it's out of range. So let's go back to our limit price offset of 15. Recent high-low look back, again, 60 bars. So if you're on a 5-minute chart, that's going to be 65-minute bars, and you're looking at the low and the high of that 15 of that 60 bars. Obviously, the further you go back, or the higher in a data series, 60 bars of an hour data series is going to mean a lot more, right? 90 bars of a 5-minute is going to mean a lot more. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to backtest the best. It just means that it's going to be the low of the last 90 bars and not the last 15 or the last 60 bars. We still got some great results with that. What am I doing this for? I should be trading with that right now. Okay, so if you're dealing with certain trades and instruments that are, I guess I would say, consolidating, and you don't want to be, it doesn't trade well. Let's say it doesn't trade well in the consolidation periods. You can require a minimum amount. So this, I believe, is in the same setting up here, either ticks or currency. But the minimum amount is going to be, I don't want to trade if the high and the low difference is only, $20, right? I want at least more than $20. So, or 20 ticks if you'd set ticks up here. So this could make a big difference. Depends on how much you set it for. You're never going to fire if you're always going to be within that range. So clearly we have a lot less trades. That must have been a really high range for this. I set it to 500. And we only got 3 trades over a month of time. But you get the idea with that. And you just have to see how things test. If you're starting to test and everything's starting to look much better, if you're avoiding a small range, then you can increase that. Okay. Wait X bars from new trading day. This can be really helpful if, depending on the instrument, you see some major spikes. Let's say even if you were trading stocks or commodities and there's just going to be the difference between the high-low from when it last opened could be so significant that it may not trade well for new trading, as soon as the trading session opens. So in that particular case, this avoids that entry for the first 2 bars. I'm sure if you increase this, you'll see how that changes here. Okay, so let's increase that to 5 bars. Run it against the backtest. The best way to look at the backtest here is to look at it in terms of, this is all static variables. We're waiting 5 bars. We have 90 look-back bars. We're in the range of the high and the low. We're bidding 15 ticks above the low for a long entry. So the difference between backtesting is just that you're really dealing with static variables and what the results would have been, historically speaking, and including slippage and commission. I mean, nothing's ever guaranteed. So with that, that's backtesting is what we're looking at. We're going to get into optimization next, but that's going to be able to change the variables instead of changing it one at a time, hitting submit, one at a time, hitting submit, things like that. Okay, let's move along. We're going to go through these pretty quickly. Profit target type. There's only 2 types for profit target. Standard, which is going to be based on ticks, percent, currency. Again, same setup. Or a recent high-low with an offset. So that's kind of like how our entry price was set up here. So instead of going 100 ticks, this is going to end up 100 ticks total. That would be standard. This is going to go 100 ticks. We could say against the high. We'd probably want to say, let's just say we did it 5 ticks. This is going to get in range again between the high and the low. And it's just going to be almost near the highs of the last 90 bars. It's going to sell, it's going to trade out. That's for recent high-low with offset. If you start going outside of that range, we'll go really outside of 50 ticks. You're going to see the results change a bit. Actually, it doesn't look to be changing. I'm going to have to look at why that is. But that's recent high-low with offset. That's how it should work. If it doesn't, that's something I have to look at. So again, standard, if we're going with the profit target, it could be that the fact is it could be exiting at the end of the session and we just don't see it. If we only go with a profit target of 15 ticks, we also have a trailing stop of 5 ticks. So it could just be stopping out all the time, which is okay. In fact, that's likely more than what it was doing. I'm sure if we have a stop loss of 500, not trailing, but standard, I'm sure our recent high-low would have triggered many times. I think it was always getting hit by the trailing stop loss, which is okay. Obviously, these results are not what you're wanting, right? This is what optimization is for. But you get the idea, and if you look at the chart itself, then you would see, okay, this is where that exited. The profit was just above. So you're looking at a profit 15 ticks outside of the high. So it went up here. If we were to look at 15 ticks inside, you're going to see the profit target down here, 15 ticks below the high. So that's what recent high-low as a profit target is going to set. Now, can you have a profit target that loses? You can, because this high-low is going to change over time. So if you could eventually down here have the last 90 bars high, your profit target's actually a lower amount. So there's pros and cons to having this. If you're wanting to bounce around in a range, this can be perfect. bid 20% above the low of the last X bars and take profits 15 ticks below the high, right? So you're bouncing. It can work out great for those types of trades. Not so great for more longer term, setups. So this was, let's do move this back to trailing with something like maybe 20 ticks trailing stop loss. Actually, that's still going to end up, it's going to always end up really having a hard time. All right, so we will keep moving along here. And, we're still profitable, even with 200 or other trailing stops. Okay, so if you're using standard and the profit target high-low offset isn't going to matter, okay? That's just the bottom line. There's a lot of our strategies that use this high-low of a previous bar, high-low offset. Anytime you're using standard, it doesn't matter what you set for this variable, okay? So profit target, now that we're using standard, we're going to go for a lot more than 15. We'll probably go for something like, this is the MNQ. We'll go for something like 120. So this is really what backtesting is. You are looking at the variables, changing them, seeing the setups. Really, for backtesting like this, the best thing to do is just to go and see them on the chart. You can also go through and analyze, go through the analysis. Is it better midday? Are you looking only at the longs, right? This down here is your drawdown. Do we want to see where the losing trades are? You might want to see where the losing trades are to avoid what happened here. So we're looking at, these are the top losing ones. Long, go short. See, these are our losing trades. And we might want to take a look anytime it's a certain amount that's a pretty significant time. We can then go look and say, okay, this happened on the, let's see. We have a pretty strong loss here on the 21st. So we can go back to the 21st. You can also, again, use, I mentioned this before, but this data box is helpful. Okay, here we are. This data box is helpful with all of our strategies. So you can see the time. We're on the 9th. We may have to scroll faster. What was that, the 21st? Okay, so we're looking at the 21st. We got a pretty significant loss that day. We're getting there. 21st. Okay, so what likely happened with that loss? I have to go back and see the exact time. The point is, you can sort of see what happened with that and why we would, why it was that much. Again, analysis. We had the 21st. It's because we had two different trades that day. That's why it's so much more. That's why it doesn't look as bad. But actually, these other dates would be more worth it. 6-4. So anyway, you can use this in combination to sort of start to analyze what's going on here in terms of looking at the chart and saying, okay, how do we get ourselves in that predicament, right? How could we have changed our stop loss to be a little bit better or open? Or maybe finding out, hey, if we had a stop loss that's a little bit higher, it bounced back in our favor. Anytime you're seeing these yellow bars on the chart, it's a new trading day. We have this set, wait X bars for new trading day 5. That's the trading day for this session here. Anytime you're seeing the gray, that's because of the setting down here, bars required before re-entry, 6. If we change this to 60, you're going to have wait a lot before you can, you're not trading after it hit the profit. You're not trading anymore during these sessions at the moment. So you can sort of just get a feel for each of these settings. The reason it's great to get a feel for these as well is because a lot of these, let's say bars required before re-entry, These are all in setups in all of our strategies. So as you start to get used to them, here's another one, exit after X bars. For some different setups, you may, if you're 15 bars in for the type of setup you're looking at, you may just want out anyway. Okay, so the good thing of understanding these is that when you're using a lot of these setups, you're going to be able to use the same ones in different strategies. So I think we've covered quite a bit. Yeah, I think we'll take a break from here, and the next video we're going to showcase is going to be optimization, how to optimize your strategies. We'll run through just 2 minutes quickly. Stop loss, trailing, standard, parabolic. You want to look at the NinjaTrader user guide with how that works, but that's what it's setting for. This one's kind of cool down here. All of these last bar high lows. These are used. This one here is used with a lot of close, really tight stop losses. This sets the ongoing last bar high low. So if you want in and then all of a sudden you just want to set for each bar going that direction, the stop loss to be the last bar high low, that's ongoing for each and every bar. If you just want to set it your entry with an exit of the last bar high low, you can use that. Those can be helpful to have some pretty tight stop losses with pretty minimal setup in terms of risk level. Okay, so ATM strategies. You cannot properly backtest any ATM strategy through NinjaTrader, but you can still use them in here, and you can practice setting it up on a simulator. So these are all ones I've been trading with. Here's a OCO, NMQ. You're going to see this exact list is also what you're going to see on the chart itself. So if you're trading on, here's the MES right now. If you're trading, you're going to see the same list here. So this is how to use ATM orders with our strategies, and all of our strategies are set up for that. Special thank you to DTB Traders. They're a vendor friend of ours, and they provided the code for us to use that. So I want to say thanks to Jason and the crew over there. Okay, so quantity setup. I use it usually if I'm trading futures. This should be not configured, but sometimes you might be trading, trading crypto, or maybe you're trading stocks. If you're trading stocks, we usually use dynamic, and this becomes a multiplier. And I'll show you. We'll have to lay out the exact code and the percentages, but what this does is basically anything over, let's say, $500 in a stock, it's only going to get 2. If it's 200 to 500, it'll get 5 shares. If it's 100 to 200, it'll get 10. If it's things like that. Dynamic, and then the way to use that is this just becomes a multiplier. So you have a quantity of 5. When it's dynamic, it multiplies whatever those setups are by 5. So if it was over $500 a share, it's 5 times 2. If 100 to 200 or whatever I was saying in the ranges. Basically, it just helps a bit with when you're running a strategy against 200 different stocks. Dynamic is going to be able to change that, so you're not getting 500 shares of a $500 stock, if that makes sense. But for stock, I would just leave it not configured if you're doing futures. Enable debug mode. This is useful. It's on all of our setups and all of our strategies. This is very useful. The way to see what the debug information is spitting out is to go to New. So if you ever send us a support ticket and you say, oh, well, here's the problem, I'm having an issue, something's not right. NinjaScript output. One area we can have you do is to check, again, the data box here. So this NinjaScript output, when that debug is set to true, it's going to spit out a lot of information. So if I was to run that now with debug enabled, you're going to see a lot of information is being spit out. What the bid price is, when it exited. Shouldn't be necessarily getting the end of object here, but you're going to be, the time of entry for an order. Here's the low of those bars, the high of those bars. Here's your profit target at the time. when the market's not flat. A lot of these details are useful whenever you see a date that's not making sense, you think it should have entered or you think it should have exited. You can come up here and throughout and say, okay, on the 25th, here was the, here's what it was set to, here was the tick price. We're skipping this order because the bid is the same price as the last one. And I'm just sort of picking out what's going on in the logs. The point is, this debug info, you don't want it on if you're running in production, usually, unless you're really trying to debug something. But if you're trying to figure out where something went wrong, or more like why, if you want to tell us we should have entered here, why not? We're likely going to ask for the NinjaScript output to see where that's at. So again, that was tools, and that was output, NinjaScript output. So, all right, so this is going to conclude the backtesting setup. I want to just leave you with two very cool tips that I like to use, and I'll go in this again in the next video. But here when you have, it's not optimizing, it's still backtesting, so you're still set to backtest up here, okay? But when you're selecting the instrument, if you know these settings, if it's percentage or tick based, and they might work well with a lot of instruments, there is a cool thing you can do where you can go ahead and select, instead of just one, you can select the entire set of, let's say, futures or micros. So now, as you run this, you're not just running it against one setup, you're running it against all 24 futures. I don't know what this is going to spit out because we used some pretty specific, and we were just kind of playing around with it. But the point is, this works out great down the road. If you set everything to be percent based or tick based, where the setups might not have to have as many changes, let's say, as if you were using in a currency or price, because the instrument pricing is so different. You can usually get some pretty good setups where you can enable the strategy to run, let's say even on simulation accounts, you could enable it to run all 24 futures against that same strategy real quickly. Whenever you go and create the strategies. So it's a tip I use a lot. It's kind of optimizing in a way, in the sense that it's going to run all of these scenarios against all of those instruments. But we're going to get into optimizing next. So I'll leave you with that tip. It's something I like to use because now, as you're looking here, with that exact setup, you're able to see all of the instruments, and we can start to look at which ones are the most profitable. Okay, so we've got, I wouldn't trust this one, it's only one trade though. I like to look at trades. When I'm looking at this kind of stuff, I really like to see setups that have at least 10 trades or more. So this one would interest me. I would want to look into this one. We've got 14 trades. The way to look into it directly by one, so now we have Strategy Analyzer open, right click. We want to open just this in Strategy Analyzer, and we're going to get the results that came from the overall results there. So these actually aren't going to change at all because this is what we had started with. But it's worth me exploring, should I be trading this instrument? It seems to be trading pretty well with the setup. You also see a combined result. The combined result's not that great, so I wouldn't just randomly trade this against all the instruments, even in a sim, So I hope you found this useful. Please like and subscribe. Please download the trial at www.nashtech.xyz/trial, and you can get going along with us here. So hope to see you trading. Hope Epic Bid is going to help you out. Remember, we are working hard here to build these indicators, these strategies, and create videos for tutorials. If there's any tutorials, strategies, setups you would like to see us do a video on, please leave your comments below. Like, subscribe, and we will be in touch.